think we're going 3, 2,
We are
1,
live.
and we're live. We're live. Hi, everybody. It's Wednesday night Tech Talk. Me and Mr. Dallas Brown. How you doing today, man? Doing
Oh, I'm
better?
hanging in there. Yeah, yep. It's been a beautiful couple of days here in Middle Tennessee. So,
Right?
oh my
Dude,
gosh,
this
dude.
morning I woke up and I was like, why am I going into work today? It
Dude,
felt like San Diego.
I got my slicks mounted on my T-Bird. I fired it up. I got the hood back on it and everything. I'm ready to rock and roll, dude. I was ready to take it around the block a couple times.
I'm going to go full John Wilburn here real quick. And something showed up.
Oh, Cookie Monster's Fab 9.
Yeah, that's right. Kind of got a 9-inch. And 40 splined axles. Dude, they're massive. They're like that big around.
Did you get them gun drilled?
I didn't know. I didn't want
No.
to get them gun drilled. I was thinking about getting them gun drilled, but, this is not, I'm not trying to go for every last little bit of weight. I don't care. Plus, then you have to worry about, pounding tubes into, holes into them and stuff like that, like the freeze plugs.
Yeah.
I'm not into it.
Oh, you did freeze up. Oh, dude, that sucks.
See? I told you it's still happening.
Man,
Man, 1 minute in, it already happened. Man,
what is happening with your internet?
I don't know, man. But
You gotta
yeah,
stop putting those John Wilburn bandwidth cheating pictures up there.
right there. that's what I got. Quick performance. So now the center section's not here. Just the axle and the housing and the axles are here. And the brakes are not here yet. But at least I can move forward. I was scared to put all my eggs in one basket. That's why I kept my fingers out there for like different cars that could possibly go. I'm just gonna go for this. So hopefully the Cookie Monster goes. So.
Well, we need to start greeting everybody because we already got tech questions here.
Yeah, okay, we'll start at the top. We got Buff from Buff Campo. We got Aaron, we got Davis, we got Mr. John Wilburn twice in a row. We got Colleen, we got Bill. We got First Responder, we got Deke, we got Twisted Mopar Garage, we got Mr. Wilburn again, we got Kevin Backwoods Custom Crap. Is that Custom Crap? Wow, that's awesome. That's a great name. We got Michael, we got Colleen, we got Rick, we got
A Cove, First Responder Garage, Dave Norman, and again, First Responder Garage. And our first tech question is actually up here with Colleen, and she asks, explain what is gun drilled.
Where else you? Oh, right here. Okay, gun drilling is where you drill down the center of an axle or a crankshaft. It doesn't take any of the structural integrity away. It actually just makes it lighter. Since torque and force goes on the outside of an object, all you're doing when you gun drill it is like literally a gun. You like drilling a hole right down the center of the axle.
Like a barrel.
Yeah, like making a barrel, exactly. The only issue with it is that now you have a hole, you have a leak. You got to plug up the leak.
Yeah, how do you keep fluid in it, right?
Yeah, right. So a lot of them will take like freeze plugs, and they'll go to like say 1/2 inch or 3/4 of an inch, and they'll put freeze plugs in them. But sometimes those freeze plugs are just freeze plugs. They'll either rust out, they'll pop out, or whatever because they're not really designed to spin. You can make plugs. Some people thread plugs.
I've seen them tapped, and then you put a pipe plug in them.
Yep, you can put pipe plugs into them. You can do a lot of different things, but I just didn't have. I didn't want to wait any longer, and I just wanted it. Plus, I wasn't, like I said, I wasn't going after every little bit of power, All right, John Wilburn, man, there are things moving. Yes, and that is the whole thing. Is that what did he say? We had 35 days and 4 hours left, which that's scary because I have. I did release a little video. I got the crank trigger on and the alternator. And the whole front end done. I redid all that, so that engine's going in, and when it's in this time, it's in, and then the converter was made, and that's all going on. So it's going in like this is going in done type thing. So
Well, I've kind of taken John Wilburn's advice. I was telling him that I might throw this ton of RAM on the T-Bird. And he said, look, man, right before the event and it hasn't ran for years, and now right before the event you want to do that, I'm like, maybe you're right.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, because I remember Shane and I having to do this. We did a match race way back in like 2016,
Yep, 16.
and the weekend before the match race, Shane decides to do this gonzo burnout in the parking lot, right? And I mean, like, it was epic Top Fuel style burnout. And the motor was bouncing off the rev limiter, and then for some reason the motor was hurt.
I
And
think
it wasn't
was,
knocking.
I think
it was
that's when I
that
cracked the block.
I think it is when you crack the block.
Yeah.
And because it wasn't, you do a compression test, it'd come out fine. It wasn't knocking, nothing like that. But it was just down on power for some reason. And what he ended up finding was it was a crack in the cylinder, like in the bore.
It was actually in the bore, yeah.
Yeah, and it was down at the bottom. So it'd pick up some water down at the bottom as the piston's coming back up. And then, of course, you have your explosion, and let's say it's got 5% water in it. It was not happy. It was down on one cylinder.
Yeah, it was done. And that's I lost 0.2. Is what I slowed down about 0.2.
Yeah.
Here's actually a good one. Did you see the Power Nation turbo slant that they did?
No.
It was
No.
a Power Nation or whatever engine power. Yeah, I think it made like 300 and something horse. It was actually pretty good. They made 200 and 225, I think, without the turbo, and it's fuel injected. And then they put a turbo on it from that Gill Welding stuff. The guys who I'm kind of talking to and whatnot.
Yeah.
And they put it on there, and I think they only ran like 10 pounds of boost. It made like 300 and something horse, and it's pretty badass. So I put something like that in Plan Z. It'll go.
Well, here is another tech question from Michael Schmidt.
Yep, got it right here. Boom.
All right. How does one identify what timing advance an engine prospers at 2K, 3K, 4K, 5K, 6K RPMs so that a points distributor can be curved to meet what the engine wants for performance?
Oh man, this is a really good. That I've always told people you time for torque and you carburate for horsepower.
Well, and see, this is okay. All of those RPMs are pretty much irrelevant. Okay, it's you want to know what max timing that you're going to need, and then you need to know what your initial timing should be at, and you just need to understand how fast it needs to come in, because it's going to want to go to max timing at like probably around 2,800 RPM. You're going to want everything in by 2,800 RPM or so.
It also depends on the rear gear and how much load the engine's
how
under.
heavy it is,
Yes.
how heavy the vehicle is, right? So he's right. It's all dependent upon gearing, engine size, the fuel that you're trying to run, all that, right? But generally, almost every street car that you look at, you can say around 22, or I'm sorry, it should be
25.
around 2,400 to maybe 3,000 RPM all in.
Exactly, right in that
And-
range.
Yeah, and but to find out the most efficient or your max timing that you need, it's all dependent upon how efficient your cylinder head is, right? So the more efficient the cylinder head, the less timing overall you're going to need. Like to give you an example, Chevrolet small block. Chevrolet small block, even if you're not even a Chevrolet guy, you know that their ideal number is 34 to 36 degrees all in, right? Generally what happens is if you see them running at the track in a dragster, even if they're running like methanol and stuff, they're still locked at 36 degrees generally.
Yeah.
But
And the
yeah,
Gen
so
3 Hemi is like right around 22 to 25 degrees. Because
Okay.
it's a super efficient head.
my
Yeah.
Cleveland head Windsor motor is 29.
Oh, yeah. So it's a good head. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I actually stand corrected. They made 402 horsepower, 517 foot-pounds of torque on 93 pump gas. And
That's
that
actually
was
really healthy.
very healthy. And that was that was at like right here. Here's another one: 402 horsepower, 500 foot-pounds of torque on 11 to 12 pounds of boost. And it wasn't really crazy. They ran a forged crank. They ran a later model block. I'm going to run an earlier block because that way I don't have to run. They had to run spacers because of the different sizes, and the thrust bearings are different.
You know
So I
what's
was running-
interesting about that is like that horsepower number is what my turbocharged 350 Buick is probably going to make.
Yeah.
except for my torque number is going to be like 700.
I did some of the math, and I now yeah, they are right. It's 400 foot. I remember it's 400 horsepower. So then, with all that torque, and that all happened by 5,000 or 5,200 RPM. It wasn't crazy RPM. I did the cam numbers too, and it's funny because their cam is exactly the same cam as I picked out. Theirs was like 218, 230 on a 114. Mine was 220, 230 on a 112 LSA. So it was really similar, the exact same profile. It was just very similar, scary similar in how close our cams came out. And then I did all those numbers on Plan Z, how much the car weighs, what it could run, and that car could be a mid 10-second car reliably. And that thing was idling smooth, and you could drive that thing pretty much anywhere. So,
He froze up again. So, to get back to Michael Schmidt's tech question here, as Shane's frozen.
I'm back.
You're playing Encino, man. That 2,000, 3,000, 4,000, that's all drivability. Take it out and drive it and find out. If it's spark knocking at 2, 3, 4 grand, you're going to have to add some heavier springs or some lighter weights to your curve kit.
Yeah. So what I was saying is that I can, I did the power numbers on that with an A500 transmission into Plan Z, and obviously I would have to strengthen it up because I did look at the car a little bit more. So yeah, I would have to put a cage in it. I had to put some connectors on it. Maybe do some little things just to make it a little bit safer to drive on the road. But if I put just a standard cage in it, but with those kind of power numbers, I wouldn't need to run a big gear. I could run, like, say, a 355 gear because it's all that torque and in that light car. And that would be a mid 10-second car.
Yeah, I'm sure. Well,
yeah.
400 horse and 500 foot-pounds of torque. I know my 302 Ford in my daily driver T-Bird, when it weighed around 3,400 to 3,600 pounds. Cruise control and air conditioning and power seats and all that jazz. We used to say the T-Birds had all the options, including the electric heated nut scratchers, right? That thing would run like generally run 1170s, spraying it with that kind of horsepower and torque number on a 302.
Yeah, and I'm about 1,000 pounds lighter than what that car would be.
So that's like 10 tenths.
Right. So that's what I figured. I figured right at it. I figured mid tens. That would actually be kind of cool. You know what I mean? And they did on 93 gas. Nothing crazy.
Well, that's the ideal thing.
Yes.
I like being able to buy the gas at any gas station.
That's what people ask me all the time. What makes a street car? For me, it's gas. It's if you can pull up to a gas.
Froze up. Pull up to a gas station and pump your gas at the pump.
Yep,
that makes it a street car.
Yeah, so if you can go there and pump it at the station and then go and drive it, 93. But 91 is scary because even 91 in my Green Dart is a little. When I was going down some of those drag strips, because I didn't make provisions for 93 because I just got used to running 93 in it all over the place, and I was like, oh, Illinois has only got 91, so.
Illinois? No, they got 93.
Not when I was there. Or was it Illinois?
I guess it depends where you're at. But
yeah, once we got past St. Louis, once we were out of St. Louis area, and we started going like north, I forget which tracks we went to, but it was all 91 after that.
Oh, dude. See, this is where you need the laptop because, see, that area around there, you'd be hard-pressed, Iowa, Illinois, Indiana, Ohio, not to find E85.
Yeah.
I mean, it's like available on every pump,
Right.
It literally is.
Yeah. See. First responder. Yeah, question. My Pipe Max Pro says I need 1340 CFM exhaust. I would like to do 1 3-inch pipe exhaust. I flowed some mufflers and most was 1170 muffler only. Should I just run 2 mufflers or go 4-inch? What kind of car is this and what kind of RPM? Because that's the big thing. I always say if you can run dual exhaust, because less back pressure is everything. They've proved that many times over. Back pressure is definitely not what you want. What's your thought on that one?
Well, see, I don't know. It definitely dual exhaust always flows better, and what you want is an X pipe in there, and it's going to help it scavenge even better. But I'm also of the school like if you ever saw my white 393 Ford truck, it had a single diesel exhaust on it, which was 4-inch pipe. And single 4-inch pipe, I wanted to retain the torque, and single exhaust helps you retain the torque. But would that truck ever need a single 4-inch exhaust? Probably not.
Yeah.
But,
Deke is saying here, Colleen, a gun drill. Okay, he's talking about gun drilling. Heavy truck, 4,300, 6,500 max RPM. I would go, like it was saying, I would definitely go as duals. Absolutely. Crossover or even H-pipe.
if it's a heavy truck, no. Put the single on it. Put a big single on it.
Well, he said 6,500 RPM, though. That's a lot of RPM.
Yeah. Yeah, but the drivability is going to be so much more.
Yeah, but if you keep an H-pipe on it, it'll balance it out and drone it down. And if you put an X-pipe, it's going to kind of give it that, like,
Raspy sound. Yeah.
Yeah, I would put an H-pipe on it. And it would tame it down a little bit. Make it more drivable. I have a torque converter with a small hub over here. That's funny. Never heard it called that one before.
Torque converter.
Okay. Hi all. What's a good PSI starting point on a 235/60 drag radial? Was looking at low 12s or high 11s. If the wind was behind me, car is late model GTO with IRS. I got to tell you that when we start on these, we start at about 22 to 20 in that range is where I would start. Kind of go from there.
I'll tell you what I did. When I started doing this stuff when drag radials were brand new. And there was the BF Goodrich drag radial was what everybody was jumping after, right? And I got myself a big set of those. And what I did was I aired them up to like 35 pounds.
Yeah.
And then I put a paint marker, a stripe all the way across the tire. And then I went and did my burnout and ran the pass. And then I looked to see where the paint was still left. Okay, if the car could hook and it was just in the center of the tire where the paint was gone, I'd leave it right there.
Yeah.
Right? Now, if the car can't hook, start dropping the PSI down and see how much broader that footprint gets. And you'll have a noticeable difference. But you never want to run less air than what you need, and you never want to run more air than what you need.
We got a super chat.
Oh, already?
Mr. Wilson. Yeah. Mr. Wilson. I want the green dart now that you're farting around with Plan B. I'm going to LS swap it. Oh, man. Plan B. That's funny. Oh, man. Okay. Michael Schmidt. Shanewood exhaust, are you running on your slant for performance with two pipes to back do more or less towards scavenging in a 6? If you have too big exhaust, would it hurt scavenging? On my system, no. I'm running 2.5-inch out the back. I have two equal length pipes coming off a dual Doltra duals, and then it's running through one of those the hooker exhaust. I forget, it's a straight through exhaust, and then I have a resonator on the tip, and it's 2-inch off of each pipe. 2.5. I'm sorry, it's 2-inch off of each Doltra to a merge, and it runs good. There's very little heat buildup in it, so it's definitely works well.
We got a question back here. It's time 7:11 from Buff Del Campo.
Oh, sorry,
He
I
says,
missed it.
we installed the slant today, but have a problem. The pilot on the torque converter is too big. I guess the crank is older than we thought. What year did that change? We need the right converter.
67 is when they changed. 67's its own little year. They had the small pilot, and then they had the early ones had a smaller pilot than that. I might be able to help you out with that. I think I have one. You know what? If you email me, slantdailygarage Yahoo, I'll see what I have out there. If not, obviously I have TCI, and we'll see what we can get for you. But yeah, the early one is definitely a smaller one. Oh, and then it's going to probably have to be a hybrid too, because on some of those ones, the spline on the transmission. What year's your transmission? Because that'll make a difference too.
Yeah, Buff saying, so there are two different small pilots.
Mm-hmm. And I'm back. There's an early and a 67.
So Clayton's saying, what is the ideal front rear weight distribution on a door slam or drag car? Man, the closer you can get to 50-50, the better.
Yeah, exactly. That's why a lot of those cars you see now are running like the long travel suspensions in the front, just to get so that way they can get it to roll back. But as much extension as you can get without the tires coming off the ground, that's the best. Back in the day, they would freeze the front tires and they would just get it up to get all the weight back. But nowadays they're using the stored energy of the spring to bring it up to slowly bring the weight transfer back. On 50-50, he's right on that one. I would, on my cars, on my drag cars, I'm at about 60-40, 60 in the front, 40 in the rear. And it was actually worse than that until I moved the engine back 2 inches and down an inch on the 66. And then I got closer. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think it's like 60-40, I believe. Okay, and Mopar mine 1978. The exit port on the Slant 6 is 2-inch ID, and I run 2.5 pipe to the manifold all the way out to the back. Does great. Yes, there's TTI makes a exhaust kit that you can get for those, and then what I do on those exhaust manifolds is I bore them out. I'll get my pipe that's going to go to the manifold, and I'll cut that manifold out and then just contour it. So if I'm running just a single, but on the Ultra Duals, I just clean up the ports on those, and they're basically 2 inch off of each one, and then I go to 2.5. But yes, this is exactly what I do. 2.25.
You know, here's something interesting. Like, exhaust manifolds used to be the thing that everybody took off and threw in the trash when I was like younger. Like, they didn't even mess with them. And the Buick exhaust manifolds for the small block was the ticket. Okay, so you get the early ones like 70 to 72. They're like a 2-inch outlet. All right, then you go later like 75, 76, and like 2.25. And I had a set of 78s off of a full size car. I'm pretty certain they were 2.5. And people would just take them off, throw them in the trash, you know.
Yeah.
And then you're like 2.5. I mean, come on, let's take a high compression 70 motor and put that on there with a decent camshaft. Excuse me, sorry.
And Kim is saying that we have a stock trans from a 1971 Valiant so far as we know. Not sure what year the engine is. Didn't realize it was so old. Just, can you measure, if you measure the hole inside there, just get a set of calipers, and then we can kind of go from there. And we'll see what we can find you. If I don't have it, I know someone here will have it, definitely.
Well, Ari was saying in one of his previous posts that he had the one with like a small.
Yes, and then you can get an adapter for it.
Right, he bought a bushing or something that adapts it.
Yeah, exactly. It's just like a bronze bushing.
I'm dying here.
Yeah, we had the same type of things. We had an early, I think it was a 67 transmission, and then we got a later model engine in 1971, and then I bought a bronze adapter, and then reamed out the hole. Like, I think it was for a clutch bronze bushing, and then we just reamed out the hole. I was a machinist, so we just cut the hole out, so that way it slid on there, and that's how I adapted it. Yeah. And then he says, yes, there are two different pilots. Yes, there are. 67, I think, was its own funky year. 67. I remember on a 67 crank, I couldn't use it, the one that was in that parts car that we had, because it was its own year, and if you didn't use that converter, you were. Oh, Dallas looks like he's dying over there. You okay, man?
Yeah, it's got something stuck in my throat.
Oh, yeah, that's why I keep tea.
I just got some water here, but it's wrecking me.
Yeah. Yeah, so we
Whoa, max headroom.
and here I came back. Good, I'm back. You know what's funny is I can hear the computer change tone, and I know when it goes away now.
I think that you are literally hitting 88 miles an hour, and what happens is you're going in time backwards by like 10 seconds. I think that's what's happening.
That's funny. I like that. All right, let's keep on moving. Oh yeah, this is here. Ari saying, yeah, he's the pre-67 torque converter and a bushing to adapt it for the laser. Yeah, exactly.
But Buff Del Campo's needing to go the other way.
Yeah, he's got to go the other way, which is that's bad. I have the VRS. Ooh, 750 on my NX NO2 plate is a 4150. The VRS has a bigger flange, so it can run a 42. Yes, so the carb flange fits my solenoid fittings. Should I run two spacers, one below and one on top of the plate? Now that's up to your computer, the guys who made the plate system. I can only tell you about mine. That one is a Induction Solutions, and they're telling you to.
He's just telling you that's what the problem is,
What's that?
right? He's saying that the carb flange hits his solenoid fitting. Should I run two spacers, one below and one on the plate?
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying is I don't know, because on mine the instructions tell me do not run a plate between the carburetor and the NO2 plate, so I can't raise it up any higher. So it's got to be the plate's got to be right underneath the carburetor.
Huh? Wonder why that is. Just for the Venturi and mixing effect of it?
I'm assuming so.
Because
So
if you run you know what? I'll tell you what. Put a spacer on the sucker. Because when you think about it, foggers, they're not even reliant upon
Yeah,
it being right
they're
underneath the
right
car.
at the right at the port. So yeah, I mean that on that one I can't really tell you on that one, but or just move the solenoids if you can just move them out farther. Weld on a little plate. Cut them and weld them.
Well, he's saying that it's hitting the flange, right? Like the fittings. So where his lines screw in.
And I'm back. It's hitting the flange.
Yeah.
Oh, this is going to get old fast again.
All right. Well, here's a couple questions. Tom Brown is saying on a dyno printout, there's a running record of the CFM the engine is using throughout the RPM range. What measures this? Gosh.
No,
What measures this? Is it as a mass airflow sensor like you have on fuel injection?
It's kind of like that. A lot of them. It depends on some of them have a fan. Some of them have a mass airflow sensor. Some of them have a lot of different things. But you'll see a pipe that goes onto there, and it'll tell you how much air is going through that pipe. We actually use two in our system, so that way we have two ways of tell how the air is going through.
Yeah, generally on a dyno, you have this CFM measurement, but there's also one that's
You can
brake
calculate
specific fuel consumption.
Yep.
There's a lot of neat things that you can find on a dyno that will give you much more information than just your printout and horsepower and torque, right? How efficient the engine is, what's the peak efficiency, what's the ideal RPM for peak efficiency.
Yeah, you can just tell it by how much power it's making, how much fuel it's using, and the RPM. You can basically figure it out from there.
So Jonathan Couchy has one just a couple of below
see it,
that.
yeah.
Okay.
Hey, Shane in Dallas, I've been trying to figure out how to set up my timing chain on my Pentastar V6. I am trying to run it far advanced down low and more retarded on top. Now,
Is that thing have adjustable timing on the Pentastar
yeah,
V6?
I thought those things were adjustable timing. Those things should be. I believe that is already an adjustable timing. You can those things. We were checking this out because I have a friend who's got one of these in his Dart, and I think we figured it out. It's running like 20 something degrees of advance on the intake at idle, and then it goes all the way back to like 10 degrees retarded. So it swings like 35 degrees.
I'm thinking this Pentastar V6. I don't know what year is it. The 3.6.
Yes,
I think that is the 3.6.
it's the latest.
Right?
Yeah, it's the latest
And
version of them.
Generally, when they have adjustable cam timing on them from the factory, there'll be a mechanical limiter. It'll be like
Stop.
a pin, and then a slot that it fits in, right? I imagine one can probably get in there with the Dremel pretty good and open that slot up some.
I wouldn't do anything because then you got
I don't know
piston
what
valve clearance.
I don't know what happened with the computer, right?
Yeah.
Is it going to freak out when it goes
Yeah.
like because it'll have a cam and a crank sensor, okay? And if that thing gets too far out of whack, that computer will go freaking nutso.
That's right. It'll throw a code. I really wouldn't on those ones. You're limited on those. Really, you are. That's why a lot of those guys lock them out so they don't have to worry about those on the VVT for the Hemis and whatnot. That's a really good engine. Those things make like almost 400 foot-pounds of torque right off of idle, all the way through the power band. Literally goes right to 400 and just stays flat. Am I still?
No, you're
Okay.
good. I was listening. I was looking for the next TEP question. So Jonathan Couch is saying from David Vazir's 128 formula, I got an LSA of 112 for peak torque. So at high RPM, that would what I'm shooting for. At lower RPM, it would be closer to 110 LSA.
Who's DVS?
David Vizard.
Oh, okay.
LSA 112 for peak torque.
Okay.
So at high RPM,
Here's the thing, though, is that okay? That David Vizard formula works great for a 350 Chevy with a wedge head. Not for a 4-valve that's super efficient and it flows like literally 300 and something CFM. That was now not taking anything away from that. Please hear me out. I'm not taking anything away from that, but it literally tells you in the formula this is ideal for a 350 Chevy style of head and whatnot, because you need all that lobe separation, the angle, tighten it up so that way you can get the scavenging effect. The newer heads flow so much beyond what even a 350 Chevy could want to do. You could still do that, but 2 degrees, I can tell you right now, 2 degrees you'll never notice. Whenever we make steps, 4 degrees is where you make a step, because you'll actually see it.
all right. Well, a little bit further down at 729, Michael Schmidt's saying, "Can I use that CFM at the dyno for anything?" Well, yeah, you can. One, you can determine if your carburetor's too small with that CFM at the dyno. If you got a 650 CFM carburetor and it's flowing 650 CFM, you need a bigger carburetor.
Yeah, because then you'll start pulling a vacuum.
Yeah.
Instead of you'll start seeing
You'll have
something
vacuum under the carburetor.
Yeah, you'll have vacuum under the carburetor. So,
Yeah.
but the thing that's good about having a smaller carb, that's
The boosters get more signal.
am I still here?
Yeah, you are now. I think you were going to say the boosters get more signal, right?
Yes, exactly what I said. Yeah.
That's what I tried to finish it up.
Yeah. The boosters get more signal. Exactly. I gotta tell you, I'm gonna get this thing fixed, man, because this is driving me nuts. Yeah.
Well, I'm wondering if it's like, I wonder what's changed. Do you guys
I
get a
don't know.
new modem or something?
Nothing's changed.
Time to drop the computer some more.
I haven't. This is a desktop. This is not the laptop.
Oh,
Yeah. The Pentastar cam tables are RPM versus air charge fill in grams per cylinder, so I'm trying to figure out how to apply the numbers. I came up with the big table. Here's what you do on these Pentastars. This is how we did it. Is that you put it under torque and then you keep advancing and retarding, because you can do that with the computer. You would advance, and then you keep advancing and you keep retarding until you find peak torque, and then you just keep doing that. You keep doing it in steps, and you can do sweeps. But I got to tell you, changing from the factory settings, it really doesn't change much. We've done this. The biggest thing that you're going to pick up on that is fuel, timing, and exhaust. As far as moving the cams on stock cams, you don't really pick up much. So,
oh well. Jonathan Couchy's saying, I believe the limit of the cam advance is set in the computer as a limit, but actually it's limited by the phasers themselves. I bet you those two match.
mm-hmm.
I'll bet you the computer number is matched to that phaser. Because see, the way that thing works is there's like a piston actuator that advances that camshaft, and
Yep.
it just runs off of oil pressure. So the more the oil pressure goes up, the more it advances that setup, right? But it'll be mechanically stopped in there somewhere. And
Yeah.
I'll bet you that mechanical stop is almost the exact same number as what's limited by the computer.
On those, I believe it's kind of like a Gen 3 Hemi where when it's resting, it's all the way fully advanced. So when you start it up, it doesn't have to build oil pressure, and it's already advanced. And then the oil pressure, the higher the oil pressure, defeats the spring, and then that's how it goes back, and then it moves it back.
Okay.
So that's usually how most of them work. Is that the oil pressure will defeat the spring at high RPM. Shane, okay, here we go. Clayton's Toolbox. Shane, does TCI make an adapter to mount a TH350 behind 351
Ooh.
Windsor Ford that's involved to do it?
Don't waste your time, Clayton's Toolbox. I wouldn't waste my time on that setup.
I believe it's a mid plate, but yeah, it's just a mid plate style. Involved to do it. It's literally a piece of aluminum, full size. You adapt it, then you sawzall, which you don't need off, and then bolt it on there. But for a 351 Windsor, I mean, what kind of power are you running? Because a C4 or C6 would bolt right on, and you wouldn't have any. I mean, I understand what you're trying to.
Maybe he's just cobbling some stuff together. I don't necessarily know, but Turbo 350s I've had no luck with at all when it comes to lifespan. They're like I guess they'd be like the first iteration of the 700R4. They work great till they just don't work at all, and there's nothing in between. It's just like the 700R4. Instead of having a gearbox full of 4 neutrals, you got a gearbox full of 3 neutrals on the Turbo 350. They work great till they don't work at all.
Yeah. John Wilburn saying this is kind of going back to where we were talking about with the valves in the in that 128 formula. 23-degree wedge and 18-degree wedge, canted valve, 4-valve, and a Hemi might all like different LSAs. The valves themselves are arranged differently, and that's exactly right. And that's kind of what I was getting at. So it would work. And then here's Unity Motorsports Garage. The 120 formula is a rude and crude deal that is based on the small block Chevy. I found it works really well for the small block Mopar due to the similar characteristics. I meant to get you in the ballpark. Yes, it will get you in the ballpark. And anything that's a air pump with a wedge style head or a poly style
about
head,
350 cubes.
Yeah, that's good. About 350 cubes, 360 cubes will work just fine. It'll get you in the ballpark. And usually on most of those, anything from 106 to 108 is going to be where you want to be. And it's funny because I didn't know about the 128 formula back in the 90s, and most of the engines that I had, my formula cams, were like 108 LSAs because I loved that it was still drivable, it sounded great, and it made just incredible torque right off the bat.
Hey, so check this out.
Yep.
You see Michael Schmidt's comment at 736?
I'm getting done.
For drag racers to be, I found a good YouTube channel called Ben Alameda Racing.
Right?
Yeah.
Dude, Ben Alameda.
That dude used to build like half the engines that me and Shane ran and when we were running the out match racing out in the West Coast, the 10.5 NA. He probably built half the engines. Yeah, he's a good dude.
I know this guy personally, too.
But then he used to build the engines for, oh, man, who was the guy that ran the yellow Mustang against Shermanator?
The BMF. The BMF?
Yeah, but I think his was a Ben Alameda engine versus Joe Sherman.
Yeah.
Was doing the small blocks in the Shermanator.
Yeah, the Shermanator, yeah. Yeah, you're right, absolutely. I can't remember the name of that white Ford. The yellow Ford, but man, that was like always. They were always heads up racing all the time.
Well, that was the 2 fastest NA cars out of Verona.
Yeah,
and they were both running like 550s on a 28 by 10 maybe.
Yeah,
they were fast.
At 2,500 to 3,000 foot, and then sometimes the DA was even, 4,800 if it was a bad day. So
yeah. And if it's 104 degrees outside.
Yeah. Okay. See what's going on down. Andy, what works here? Andy works well. Also, did David figure out that you had to modify the Jets rods on that car? Okay, 2-row. Okay. Oh, and Tom, yes, we were talking about that right off the bat when it came in. Yeah, and the forged cranks were definitely bigger to save. In the 81 is when they went to a lighter block, a lighter crank, and lighter rods. Everything was smaller. I prefer all the forged stuff because there's so much more of them around. Plus, the cast crank blocks are going to be hydraulic, and they have a different head. The valve covers don't fit, so nothing works. So that's why I try to do everything like 81 and earlier. So it's all.
Hey, and
yeah.
you know what? Tom Brown is also the guy. Last week, I don't think he made it here.
Oh yeah, he's
Your
the guy. That's the guy.
68 350 Buick camshaft is now back at my homestead, and it's been cut to be a, I don't know, 67 Buick 300 camshaft on a 350 profile, and it's going to run 350 heads on a 300. So, just to let you know.
Yeah.
One step closer.
One step closer.
Michael Schmidt says down below that, he says, dudes, that yellow Mustang in Ben Alameda's videos was wicked fast, crazy fast.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I can't remember that guy's name.
I can't think of it right now, but I'll find it. But yeah, it was wicked fast, crazy fast. That is absolutely correct. And those were, and he's not even the fastest guy. The guy in the Breeze, the 68 Dart, the Just Breeze It, I forget his name.
The white one.
The white Dart.
Shiloh Davies.
Shiloh Davis. He's the fastest guy right now, and he's running like 5.0. I think it's 5:15. 5:15, I think is what he's running right now.
That thing was fast way back in the day. It wasn't 5:15, but it was still like 5:20s, 5:40s, somewhere around there.
Yeah.
There was some awesome. It'd be like small tire NA motor stuff out there on the West Coast.
Yeah, that's the whole reason why when Dallas started the.
Whoa! Froze up right when you're plugging.
Yep, there we go. Yep, and that's the whole reason why Dallas started the AHRA. Was so that way, and he made that whole class was just for that because there were so many NA cars out there.
That GT class.
The GT
we had like 10. I bet 10 cars at that one track that could have fit in that, and I figured the rest of the country was the same way. And when we went out and took it out on the rest of the country, no, it's not the same way. There might have been 10 cars the rest of the country
right.
that fit in that. Yeah, there was some stuff, but you would have one race per year. Everybody have to tow from a hell of a long distance to just go to it, and it just wasn't worthwhile.
Yeah, because it was at the tracks that we were at, we had at least 10 cars that.
Yeah, they would have fit right in that GT class for sure.
There we go, and I'm back again. Yeah. And then when they did the NA class, if you had a big block, you had to run a what was it? You had to run a smaller tire. You had to run a 28 1050, and if you had a small block, you could run a 29 1050. Is what they ended up doing.
Huh.
Yeah. Thanks, John. I appreciate it. Thanks. Yeah, we're gonna fix that. 311. Yes, I like the band too.
Yeah, that was the Ben Alameda versus Joe Sherman Racing Engines clash was happening big down there around 2015, 16, 17.
Dude, that was awesome. That was such a, that was so bitchin'. That was like a magical time there when that whole match race stuff was going on.
Oh yeah, that was like a little period of Camelot right there.
Yeah, it was.
It was a good time. Everybody knew everybody. That was what was cool about those Match Race Madness races. Is we used to have a pre-race party the night before, and all the food and drink was provided by the sponsors. So it's like you can eat as much as you want and get as drunk as you want, but tomorrow you're gonna wake up for your butt kicking, right? And we used to have a good time. You know, it'd be like, and what was cool about it is all the guys that used to race up at the at Terminal Island with the Brotherhood of Street Racers used to come down there for that Match Race Madness, and they'd be all geeked out about. I mean, because this Match Race Madness was like some street car, some race car, right? And when you had race cars, what was neat about it is like everybody there that had a race car for the Match Race Madness was trying like to have a small tire race car, and like legit small tire. There was when they came out with a 28 10.5 and everybody was running that as the small tire. Most of us had to go get a wider tire, right?
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I was running 30 by 9s.
Yeah. I was running a 10-inch wide tire.
I tried 26 by 8s, and you want to talk about pooping your pants in a car, that thing will do it.
I had 26 by 8s in my Volkswagen Bug.
Dude, I did that at Verona on that T-Bird, and that sucker, I'm telling you, it went through like the 660 sideways, blowing the tires off, man. I could not keep that thing straight. It was all over the place.
You found the limit of that tire, right?
Yeah. And I played with the suspension some, but it was just so damn scary, I just didn't want to even try. What I had done is I went and got some Steelies, and then I had some police car Ford spare tire police car tires wheels up front that were aluminum, and they're spray painted black, so it just had black wheels and tires on it, and it looked like a police car T-Bird. Man, that sucker was just not, it was so hard to drive. You'd have to feather it everywhere, and it was sliding sideways, and once it started making power up on the top end and the converter came in, look out. So, but I also was running like 8 pounds of air in the dang thing just to get the hook.
There we go. And I'm back.
Oh, you're frozen again?
Yeah, dude, I'm telling you, this is getting ridiculous. Totally ridiculous tonight.
You must have a torque converter in there.
I have a torque converter going on. Oh, here we go. A couple of weeks ago, talked about lightning cranks. Is there a formula or process to tell how much you can cut off crank before it's too light for the rods, pins, and pistons you are using? Yeah, bob weight. You're going to have to basically check it, and you can usually. I did a lot of working with cranks when I was at Crowder, and you got to get your bob weight down, obviously, and you want to run like low decks if you're going to start undercutting the crankshaft. But here's the thing: is once you get too light, then you're going to have to start running like, say, titanium rods, because you're going to put so much Mallory metal into it.
I was going to say it'd be cheaper just to do the titanium rods.
Yeah, exactly. Once you start putting like 4 or 5 slugs in that thing, if you have most people can only afford a certain lightening of crank, like let's just call it maybe 68 pounds, maybe even 58 pounds. And the reason...
Froze up again.
Okay, I'm back. Where did I leave off?
58 pounds.
Okay, 58 pounds. So once you get to 58 pounds, you can only get a piston that's so light before the crank, before the rod is going to be so heavy, because it's going to have to get longer. So if you have a shorter deck height, then you can make that even smaller. But then you're going to get to a point where there's just not enough weight to lose. You can get, like, say, a super lightweight pin. You can, then you're getting a compression height. There's a lot of weight you can take out, but you're going to lose so much there, and you're going to have to put Mallory in it. But 58 pounds is right around on a small block. Let's just call it small block Chevrolet, about where you start to get balancing problems as far as weight goes.
I saw it out in California. There was a speed shop called JBA Speed Shop, and you've probably seen like JBA headers. They're the ones that made those headers originally, and then they got bought out. Yep. Okay, but it was originally just it's a speed shop for Fords primarily. But I went in there one time, and they had a crank, and you've always had Scat and Eagle as the Chinesium cranks. Those have always been Chinesium cranks. Okay, Scat and Eagle. But then when everybody else started coming out with the newer stuff like Power Master cranks and all that, those are the real Chinesium cranks, right? Mm-hmm. And they had brought one of those in one time, and some dude, it was a stroker for a Ford small block. It was supposed to be like a 408 or 427 or 455 or something, whatever it was. But it was a big stroker for a small block Ford. And it would have had more metal in it, more Mallory metal, and the cost would have been more than what the crankshaft costs.
Yeah.
So it actually just gets to a point where you just throw the crank away and just get another one.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly right. You just sell it and go from there. Michael Schmidt's actually asking a really great question here on straight 6. There isn't a bob weight, right? So, CA?
So maybe just, can you remove crank material without considering the weight of the piston and rod weight?
Well, they're neutral balanced. So basically, on a straight six or even like a slant six or whatever, you balance the crankshaft zero. So you don't put any bob weight on it because it's in line. Each one's going to cancel out each other. So you could make the pistons and rods literally as light as you want at that point because they're canceling each other out. As two are going down, two are going up, and the other two are halfway. So they're canceling. What's that?
I'm reading Ari's comment there. He says, I'm over here eating hummus and judging you guys. I'm a proper Middle Eastern.
Perfect. But yeah, there's...
Is he hitting the hookah too? That's what he needs to be doing, hitting the hookah.
On a straight six car, what you do is exactly what the slant six did. Is they made a cast crank, and they took 20 pounds out of the crankshaft. And I'm back. So basically, it's it's 20 pounds lighter, and they made it just cast, but it's still neutral balanced. So that's how you lose a lot of that weight. But it comes at a cost. You know how much. If I'm going to make one of these turbocharged engines, I definitely don't want to run a cast crank. I'm going to definitely run a forged one.
Well, Kevin down here is saying, have you guys ever had an aluminum drive shaft built? Are they really stronger? I just ordered one. It melted my wallet.
I have one.
I do not. Okay, and I'll tell you the cheap. After you just ordered one, I don't know if I should throw this out there because you probably go jump off a bridge, right? You can go to the junkyard and look under like a full-size truck or a van, and they'll have an aluminum drive shaft on them, and you just take those and have them cut down. That's the cheap way to do it. Crown Vics also have them if you're a Ford guy. So you can go get one out of a Crown Vic police car and have it cut down.
Mine was a truck and got cut down.
But generally what they do, they are stronger because what they do is they go change in diameter. It goes from a small diameter, like say a 2.5, maybe 3-inch diameter drive shaft to like a 3.5.
To a 4.
Or maybe even a 4. I saw one the other day that was at the junkyard, was all crunched up, was a carbon fiber one.
Wow.
And I don't know where you're getting them at, but either way, when they go larger in diameter, it handles more torque just because of there's A, more material in a bigger circle, right? And then B, when it's larger diameter like that, the torque, just like Shane said at the beginning of the show, is transferred on the outside of it, right? So a drive shaft generally is hollow. And the larger diameter you have, the more leverage it has, so the more ability that it has to take all of that torque, right?
There's also two more reasons too.
What's that?
Critical speeds.
Oh, because the longer you make it, the higher it goes. Or the
lower,
larger diameter you make it, the higher it goes.
And also aluminum, because aluminum you can make them thicker, so there's less harmonics that go through them, and then you got your primary and your half critical speed. So like say your critical speed is say 70 miles an hour, or say 140. But then you have your half critical speed, which
70.
everyone complains about, is 70, and that's exactly what you have a problem with, is right the half critical speed, and it's only just a very small harmonic right at that.
And if you don't know what half critical speed is, it's actually a mathematical formula on this thing. Are you froze up again?
Yep, I'm here.
So it's a mathematical formula. It's like the length of it, 1/4 the length of it. The length of it is 1/4 the wavelength of a certain resonant frequency, right? And those resonant frequencies is actually what causes the vibration in the drive shaft.
Yeah.
And like you say, half critical speed, so it'd be essentially half of the
frequency.
Resonant frequency.
Yep. That's what
you'll start feeling it.
You start feeling it, and it goes down by length, diameter, material, and the thickness of that material. And that's and then also too, U joints do make a difference too, because the farther you get them out, the 1350 joints are the best ones.
Well, and here's another thing that a lot of people probably haven't noticed. If you look at older drive shafts, like especially on the Fords from the 80s, there used to be rubber on the ends of them. And that rubber was to counter that freaking vibration.
Yeah, exactly. My next project. Hey, Professor P, I heard you mention the sweetest camshaft for a stock bottom end 360 Magnum engine. Would you share the information? Yes. Now, for me to click on it and find it here on this computer while I'm live is hard. SlantDailyGarage@yahoo.com. I'll give you a whole build sheet. I have two of them. I have one for cast iron, the CH318 heads from Engine Quest, those replacement ones. That was big back in the early 2000s. And then I have one for the Magnum RPM aluminum heads. One makes like 450, the other one makes like 460. The only difference between the two, they're the exact same engines. It's just the aluminum head has got a full point more compression. That's the only reason why you're going to make more power, is because it dissipates heat so fast. I'm not sure if
compression equals horsepower, right? So
yeah, and torque, yeah, exactly. And then since it's got the same camshaft, it just carries that torque out just a little bit farther. Let's see if I can find it. It was in downloads here. But as I go through this, hopefully, I hate trying to find stuff while you're live.
What Zonda B or what Zonda 2B is asking? What stall speed are you, Shane? And I'm assuming in the Cookie Monster.
Oh, that one is, I think it's like 6,400. I think on this one. Remember, it's a nitrous converter, so
Yeah.
it's one of those. It's super
It
low.
should be fairly tight.
It is low, but when you hit it with the juice, it's going to go way up. So it's
Right.
going to range between 35 to 6,000 ish. Who knows? So yeah, I don't know. I just sent these out to someone here. Let's see if I can find them.
I think you sent them out last week. Somebody asked about the recipe.
Yeah, I did send them out.
Tom Brown's asking, is there any way to tell how heavy any crank bob weight is on a crank at home?
No. Well, actually, no. You can tell what crank what you need for your bob weight. You get two of.
Uh-oh. Froze up.
3, 2, 1. It was actually faster that time. Normally it's 6 seconds. You basically, it's just you can't tell what you need on the crank. You can't tell what's on the crank, but you can tell what you need. It's just a simple formula. That's one of these I was going to look up here, but I did find for my next project. I did find the cam specs here. So it is 232, 245 on a 108 LSA. Now here's the kicker: is that since you're running, am I still here? Am I still around?
Yeah, you're good.
Okay. The lobe lift is 343 and 341 at the lobe, and with a Magnum you can run small block Chevrolet rockers. So you run like a 1.6 or a 1.65 rocker arm, and that's how you get your ratio up on those, and you get up to that 550 lift or something like that. So, but yeah, that's the cam. So 232, 245, and the compression is with the cast iron heads is right at 9.5 to 1, and it's a 650 double pumper, 69 jets in the front, 4.5 power valve, 75 jets in the rear, 1-inch open spacer, 1 5/8, 3-inch collector, 18-inch extension. Distributor is a
Oh.
3, 2, 1. I'm back. Good. Okay. And the distributor is like an MSD style distributor with the two blue springs, and it's all in by 2,500 RPM, 38 to 36 degrees total timing is where I have it ranged. So yeah, it's a pretty simple thing. I even got all the part numbers for everything you need as far as for the crank, the pistons, the ring. So yeah, email me slightdailygarage Yahoo, and I'll send you the little recipe. I'll send you both of them. I don't care anymore. I used to keep those things sacred. Like, ooh, I'm gonna make $1 million on this, you know.
Well, I was always doing that with my what if 300 idea. Ooh, I'm gonna capitalize on this one day.
Yeah,
and
then,
like I asked a couple people about it. Like, that's the dumbest thing I ever heard. I'm never doing that. Like,
yeah,
oh,
and
you know
now
what?
and there's so much more to building these engines than just throwing these parts at it. It was all the time of learning how to control oil, and every single one of these says oil pump, stock replacement oil pump, because there's a lot of oil tricks that I'm doing, and that's worth the extra 20 or 30 horse.
That's exactly where I find it at, is in the oiling system on the Buicks. I mean, gosh, when you got the small block has 90 degree or greater turns from the pickup in the pan to the time it feeds number one cam bearing.
Yep. And on those Magnum engines, what I do on those, a lot of people use that crossover tube. I tend not to. I actually pick it up from the stand that comes up to for the pressure sensor. So there's like a little stand that comes up. Now that one's feeding the number 5 main. So I drill and tap that out, and then I run it. Am I still here?
You're here.
Okay. I tend to run 2 lines forward. I run 1 line up, and then feed the driver's side, and then I'll run another line up, and then it feeds the passenger side up by the number 1. So the number 1 main is getting oil backfed in 2 different spots, because that's the one that always tends to fail, and the lifters will fail on the driver's side because it's.
Well, here's a question for you. Miss Cat G says, "What do you like for piston to head clearance on an LA Mopar small block or a LA Mopar?"
Piston head clearance?
Yes, piston to head clearance.
30. Well, on the street, I just run whatever gasket is 39
to 43 thousandths.
Yeah, 39. Because I run a 0 deck block. That's what these things are. Is a 0 deck on this with a Felpro 39 thousandths gasket, and so that's what I.
Now you're not here. All right. So Junkyard D saying you better be smashing the like button on this sucker. 53 watching, 26 likes. You know what to do.
Yeah, right.
Get real on smashing some like button. Okay. Danny Boyd saying, are drive shafts made of the same metal as exhaust pipes? It's nowhere near as thin, and it is. No, it's not. It's not the same.
Oh, right here, yeah. No.
It's made of the same metal. Yes, it's steel.
It's steel, but it's the thickness of the steel, the gauge of the steel. Yeah, and then they have different types of alloys too for different drive shafts. If you guys Google, if you're interested in this, it's really fascinating. Google critical speed of drive shafts, and there's a whole information on it, and it'll tell you the difference in the material, the difference in the diameter.
That's where you need to Google that in. Just go to YouTube and search for that. I'll bet you there's some freaking awesome videos of drive shafts flying apart and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's one of the things I learned about when I was in engineering school. Was critical speed.
Huh.
Yeah.
Well, we're an hour in. Is it time for heavy duty tech talk?
I didn't have anything prepared, man.
Oh man,
I was busy. We got SEMA and PRI coming up, so all my projects that are going to both of those are. I'm basically working a lot right now.
Michael Schmidt saying, if you are a total nitrous rookie with an unconventional engine like a Flathead 6, who aimed, where would you call to get started so as to not burn the garage down?
How would you get started
for fun?
Dude, I got to tell you, there's many different companies out there, but the one company that I went with that's super hands-on is Induction Solutions. Those guys are awesome.
You know what I would do if it was me and I was an unconventional engine and nobody even knew you had it? They would never even consider that you did.
It's an engine, though.
No, I know, but you remember the one that used to fit down on the carburetor stud?
Yes.
That's the one I would get, dude. And then I would put the smallest pills you could possibly put in that sucker.
The Sneaky Pete, which is a 50 shot.
Yeah, I put the smallest shot in there and go out and spray it and have fun, man, because you're going to have a blast.
A 50 kit and something like that would just rock
it's like
your
doubling
world.
the horsepower.
Yeah, right.
It is. At an inline 6, I mean, they're pretty anemic. But I would do that. I would get that kit that fits on the air cleaner stud. And it goes up through your air cleaner. You got to drill 2 holes in the bottom of the air cleaner or put some knockouts on a Holly one and run your lines up in there. And then, here's the California street racing scene from circa 1990s, dude. Mm-hmm. Is that nitrous system with big vacuum lines coming out of that. They would take vacuum line and run the nitrous lines through them.
PCV ports. We used to make them in PCV, like a fuel line, so it looked like a PCV port.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what I did. And then I ran it underneath my dash where the glove box was.
Uh-huh.
And then, remember they were Sneaky Pete. Remember those?
Oh, I remember. Yeah.
Yeah. So we would tie those together, and they would fill them up like a 15-pound bottle. You would have a bunch of them wrapped together, but you could mold them into whatever shape you wanted. So we put them in like where the glove box was on a Mopar, and then used the air box, like where the heater box was, and that's where we would hide the bottles, was in that.
Oh, all right. Because I've seen them inside the door.
Oh,
You can't
no,
roll
no,
the
no.
window down. So what you do is you take the panel, like you got an access hole in your panel cut out.
Yeah.
And you would reach down and turn that sucker on in the door.
Yeah, no, I've actually seen people get caught doing that because they would open the door and they would see the line. Like if you see a line,
yeah.
So they would see that. So that's when I got and I had mine in the door right there. I had the Sneaky Pete in the door. So I was like, man, how can I do this? So I got my my heater box, and then if you open the glove box on a Mopar, it's right there. That's where the condenser's at. So I put it right there in the top, and it was just a little flap with a little with just little hinge on it, and then right where the hoses came out, that's where I ran the two lines out, and the two lines came into the back, so it looked like it was just a factory.
I remember seeing that intake manifold where at the Cars swap meet and show in San Diego, where it had a fogger, but they were all plumbed on the bottom of the intake manifold, right?
Yeah.
You remember seeing that?
I did see that, and I was actually that was my next step. I was gonna get into that next step of doing that, but once you get to like 250, it was just like, I don't know, man. It was, I don't know.
Well, it was pretty obvious, and then people, what happened was the purge valve became the thing to have, right?
Yes.
And because that's what they were running in, like Fast Streetcar America Shootout was a purge valve. Oh man, you got a purge valve? That thing's gonna be fast. Well, there was guys running nitrous before they even had a purge valve.
Yeah. Right. And here's the thing too, is that I'm laughing about this as I say this because it was so evident, because the car would come out the whole,
Yeah, it would go from Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde in the first 60-foot mark.
Yes, and man, it was
a big difference too, because you not just hear the motor, but the car reaction. It might leave tires up, and then it would go even higher when the motor started. Oh, he froze up.
Yep, there we go. Yeah, mine would leave like this, so the car would react, and I had super stock springs on it, so it would react, and then I would hit it again, and then the tires would come off the ground, like it would just daylight them slightly as it would hit the converter again, because the converter was not right for no nitrous. So we had a super tight converter, like it was like the one.
The trick used to be like 25 to 2700. What was that thing? The Saturday night special.
Yeah. Saturday night special. So I actually went the other way. I went to a 2200 stall, and then so I could drive around, and then people would hear me driving out to the track, and they wouldn't think it was a big stall, and I would be up there, and I had 391 gears in it at that time, because I wanted to use the torque of the nitrous. So that way I could roll out, and I would take some of the torque away from the engine so I wouldn't spin, and then as I got out there a few, then I would start fluttering that button. But that was
I had mine on a switch. And you would just arm it, and all I'd do is turn on the fog lights using the factory fog light switch, and ran to a relay, and that armed the nitrous, and then it had a switch on the throttle. You mat it, and that sucker. I mean, it was instantaneous, but you had that delay, right?
Yeah. See, for me, I didn't do that. I had a switch on the full throttle, so it'd only arm if it was full throttle, but I also had a button. It was on the shifter, so that way when I was going, and then I could take that button, I could, and then hit it as fast as I could go, just to kind of flutter it in, and then that way it wasn't like the car got a big hit. It almost sounded like it was starting to backfire.
Well,
like
it was obvious when you get it to the big numbers. When you hit like over 150 or over, it was obvious.
Oh, when it hits like a switch, yes, but if you could flutter just right, and you could get that flutter, people would be like, man, your car really came on, man. Like I was like, yeah, I was starting to paddle, and I was able to floor it because I was starting to spin the tires.
Well,
and you'd make it sound like I was actually playing with the throttle.
Well, and that's the thing. Way back in the day, too, like, okay, 90s street racing stuff. Here we are. We're not even doing tech talk, but the deal used to be just to clip them, right?
Yes.
You just want to clip them by like a fender.
Yep.
Oh man, I almost got you. Oh yeah, you did.
And his buddy would come over.
I think I would have got you. I had 2 more degrees of timing. Well, go put 2 more degrees in, and we'll find out for another $100. Okay, and you'd clip him by a fender again, right?
Yeah. Boy, man, did I get really lucky 2 times in a row. Well, you know what, man? My buddy over here, he beats me by about a car, right? And I'm like, man, I don't know, man. And this is where you're either gonna race more, because usually 2 to 3 is all you're gonna get at a spot. After that,
yeah,
I'm telling you,
they already know you. They know you at that point. You're done for the night, right?
So you can normally get 2 off of one guy by barely clipping him, and then he brings his friend over.
That's the heavy hitter. That's where you hook him.
That's exactly. And then he's the heavy hitter, and then you just like, fuck, man, I don't know, man, I don't know, and then they come on, man, and then they feel like they got you on the ropes, right?
So the way you used to deal this whole thing was you'd clip the other guy for like $100. So they knew you had 200, and they're already assuming that you had 300 because you had the money on the line to begin with. Okay, so the guy will usually say, "Hey, man, you want to do it for 300?" And then what you do is that's when you bring it up and you say, look, I got that guy by just a fender each time, and he's saying that you're cleaning his clock by a freaking car. I can't hang with that, man. And all I got's $500, dude, and that's gonna pay my rent for the month.
Yeah.
And the guy will say, look, I'll do it for $500, and then you let him eat it, right?
You show them your ass. Yeah, that's right. I'm telling you. What you just said, I'm laughing because I've said those exact lines 100 times.
I remember standing there, like, even if we didn't race, if you just showed up, the thing used to be, all right, this is Southern California in the mid to late 90s,
Yeah.
all right? And here's how everybody looked. Like they came right out of like a Sublime, say a TV, what do they call those things? Music video, right?
Right, it's true, yeah.
Everybody
Flying
down there
over
had
the
a hoodie on and like a short pair of shorts, or not a short pair of shorts, but like a
Dickies, like what I'm wearing right now.
Dickie shorts.
Yeah.
And then you're standing there in one hand you got a carne asada burrito or like a freaking chimichanga, and the other hand's like a 40 ouncer of MGD, and everybody's freaking standing around, and you can look at people, and if you've been out there enough, you can tell exactly what's going on. And it's like they'll be talking to somebody next to the car, and you're like, they're setting up the race. They're going to be coming up here to race, And there
Especially
used to
down
be
there.
cars haul in from Tijuana that were like, you swore their whole mantra was like, make it look ragged and junky.
Drill
right?
holes in the exhaust to make it sound like it's got an exhaust leak. They did that.
They'd have oil that they'd pour into the exhaust as it's running so it would smoke.
Mm-hmm.
And man, some of them suckers were the meanest street car I ever seen.
Fast.
Yeah. Stupid
Fast.
fast.
Very fast.
It was so much fun though. Gosh, man, and all of that's gone now. That was so much fun. And what really ruined it was, I'll tell you what ruined it. The Fast and the Furious crowd ruined it because then within like 2 weeks of that movie, everybody was crashing on Mira Mesa Boulevard and killing each other and all kinds of crap.
It was Kearney Villa Road.
Was it Kearney Villa?
Yeah, Kearney Villa, where they would meet at the In-N-Out over there on Mira Mesa or Miramar Boulevard.
On Miramar?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mira Mesa Boulevard.
Okay.
At the In-N-Out right there, right next to the 15. And then they would go down to Kearney Villa. And Kearney Villa was that right between the 163 and the 52 right there. You remember, it would go from 2 lane. It would go 1 lane if you're going north to 2 lanes. And they would line up right there. And here's what they would do is they would line up, they would drop the flag, the flagger would look back, and those cars barely made it out to like the 100-foot mark, and he would be lining up the next. So on a quarter-mile track, there would be 4 drag races because those cars were not fast.
Right, and what they're doing is they're trying to get them as fast as possible before
Yeah.
the cops would show up, right? So they're
That's
just
right.
like bam, 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 bam.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody gets into shit in the top end, they got 4 cars coming right at them.
Yeah, and they would line up. And here's the problem: is when the cops came on Kearney Villa Road, there's only 2 ways in and
Yeah,
out.
there's no way to get out.
They would box them in, but then all the people who are lining the streets, remember now there's 4 drag races going on, they would all come out at the same time, and then it was just, and then there was also Firehouse, which was
Well,
down there,
But
Miramar.
that's what
by the-
caused it was like the stupid
Yeah.
Fast and the Furious crowd.
yeah, the
came
slow
out
in the
there.
lane is what I call it. The slow in the
Well,
lane.
and they ruined street racing in Southern California because it was just absolutely the bomb.
It was the best.
I never saw an import run at that stuff until the probably early 2000s.
Well, we were hardcore into it in the 90s, early 90s. We
Import
were in the B
stuff?
series. Yeah, we were basically, but it was not like Fast and Furious style. The Hondas were. There was a few guys running 13 seconds. They had Acura Integras, and then we had the B series in them, the 1.8 16s, and we had it. I'm trying to remember the guy's name. I think his name was Danny. I think. And we had cut that whole car out. Literally, it was a shell. It was a seat, and it was the car ran like, I think it ran like 13 something, and that was fast for back then. And how we did it too is that
That's fast for a regular car or like a V8 car.
now traction's a problem because it's front wheel drive, right? So I came up with something really bitching on these is that drag bars, right? So what we did is we took drag bars and then we put a big wheel on it and then we put it on an air shock. So you would fill it up, and then what that would do is it would elongate the distance of the vehicle. So this wheel would push down in the back, which would raise up the back end and would put all the weight on the front of the tires. So you would launch in first gear, and as soon as you pulled second gear, it would drop the air out of the shock, and it would release it back to the rear tires. Dude, it worked beautifully. It was awesome.
Well, Ari saying, does anyone need a 750 Holly with vacuum secondaries? I was going to use it for my 350, but I don't get to go wild on the 350, so it's a little overkill.
Oh, well, that's awesome. Yeah. If anyone's interested in it, email me, SlantDailyGarage@yahoo, and we'll make sure that it gets distributed out. Whoever needs it, just send me, and we'll post it up, because that would be awesome. Yeah. Man, I
Tom
could go
Brown
on
saying,
and on.
what was the formula to find out how much bob weight you needed? And I'm way behind here. I'm catching up right now.
Yeah. I will post it. What I'll do is I'll post you the formula after the end of this, because I don't want to go and search for it while I'm live.
Here's a cool question. Clayton's Toolbox. I'm a V8 guy, but I'm curious about Honda K24 and Toyota 2JZ. Could you educate me on these engines? The Toyota 2JZ, isn't it 4JZ?
No, it's 2JZ.
Okay, that JZ series, because I think there is a 4JZ. Maybe I'm wrong. But that JZ series engine was a bad mofo.
It's badass.
It could take some serious beating.
Yeah, the 2JZ engine, the block.
Uh-oh. Crap.
Street. Am I still here? Okay.
You just came back.
Okay. They're good for about 1,000 horsepower, 800 in the street. You don't have to really do much to them. A lot of them came twin turbocharged. You put a big single on there, and you can easily make 800 horse on those things. And that's really nothing to them. On the Honda K24, that is a magical engine. And look, I'm a Mopar guy, but there's one engine that I really kind of like geek out to and nerd out to, is the Honda K series. That cylinder head flows almost 400 CFM out of the box.
Yeah, that means it's 800 horsepower capable.
Dude, you can make 500. You can make 500 horse or 350 to 500 horse on those NA without really trying. You do, but it's really easy, and you can spin those things to the moon. And what I mean by to the moon is like 10,000, 10,500 with really good reliability. And it's a great engine. And the K series spins the correct direction as like a regular engine, as far as clockwise. The B series would actually go counterclockwise. So that's where I never really nerded out on putting one of those in, like, say, a Dart. But if I ever put an import engine, it would be a Honda K24 in one of my engines. In one of the cars. For real. That would be the engine.
So Andy from Unity Motorsports Garage, and this is from a little while ago, it's 12 minutes ago, they later came out with my favorite nitrous kit called the Top Hat. The nitrous and fuel solenoids were in the air cleaner.
That's the one. That's the one. Yeah, that's the one. And so I bought that with right here. Right here, the old Sneaky Pig. I miss those days. That's exactly what I had. Is I bought a bunch of those bottles, and I routed them all together, and I would go and fill them. Yeah, here.
Dude,
right
I just
here.
remember going. That swap meet there at Cars.
Yeah.
They used to have a zillion nitrous bottles out there for sale, man.
Yep,
a zillion.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Here. Yeah, I'm a little far behind because my chat was kind of freezing up here.
Yeah. Well, Andy's saying that on his Mustang, he ran a Zex kit that I painted the box red and put a Mallard decal on it and wire loomed the line. Surprisingly, nobody ever figured it out.
Yeah. Oh yeah. We did a bass box one time where you put a fake speaker. It was a Rockford Fosgate, and so this is mid '90s, right? So in my buddy's Mustang, so it looked like, everybody had to have the 12-inch kickers or 12-inch Rockford
Right.
Fosgates, right? Or the
Yeah.
Punch 20s or whatever it was, Punch 12s. And so we made them, and we made it look like that, and it was a box, and it had that, and so then all the lines were the power wires going up to the battery, So it looked like an install for like a stereo system, but it wasn't. It was nitrous. So yeah, it was good. Okay, yeah, I'm far behind, but you know what? So what? We'll catch up. 10.5 to 1 static 383 Mopar with aluminum wedge heads. Can I run 91 octane? Yes, but camshaft compression ratio on these 10.5 on aluminum wedge heads. Yes, but if you have a camshaft that's on a tight LSA, like say a 106 or 108, you're going to build a lot of cylinder pressure. So you would have a little bit more of a problem on that. But the aluminum heads are going to dissipate a lot of that heat. Typically, when I'm going to run one of those, I will widen the LSA and I'll put a little longer duration on the exhaust. That'll cut down on some of the cylinder pressure as far as cranking, but you're going to lose a little bit of power, but it will definitely help out with the 91 octane. So yes, I would try to run a cam that's like 110 or bigger. Personally, that's just where I would be. A safe would be a 112, and then you'd never have to worry about it, because it might run well right now, but the second carbon starts getting on there. Am I still here? Okay.
No, you're still here. I'm just reading the stuff on the side.
Yeah, as soon as carbon builds up on that, you're going to raise the compression a little bit more. So awesome. Okay. Yeah, when you start moving, I'm like, great.
No, I'm just reading the stuff on the side. I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah. See here. Uni Motorsports, Mopar Man. I have removed the boosters and went to a straw type booster, and that is where I'm at right now. Okay, so. Oh yes.
You know what? The last one down here, Tom Brown. Did you get your magazine from Shane? I did. I have it right here.
Yeah.
In fact, it's sitting here on my desk.
Look at that.
Look, see, transfer happened. It eventually happened.
We did it right through the computer too. Oh,
yeah.
That was Tom Brown that I met out there in Cordoba.
I don't know if that was. Is that him that gave it? Because he was. I think Tom Brown is from North Dakota.
I think someone came down. I'm not sure who it was that handed it to me when I was at
He was
Drag
from
Week.
Iowa, I think. You guys were up at Cordova, right? Which is 1 mile from Iowa.
Yeah,
It's literally across the river.
Yeah, we stayed in Iowa for that night. We stayed on the other side of the river.
Yeah, Davenport or whatever it is.
Yeah,
Dude, I think I told you, there is a restaurant there. Because you got to get off at exit 1 to go to Cordova. Mm-hmm. There's a restaurant there, like right when you get off, called Brothers Restaurant.
Yeah.
Dude, that's
sign. This place is supposed to be awesome.
That place has I want to say it was a chicken fried steak as big as the plate.
They even advertised it. It was the best chicken fried steak around. And it's a white building on the right hand side there. I totally saw it. So
I used to eat there every time I was coming back from Iowa. Hit that place and chow down, have that big chicken fried steak.
You know what we did to survive Drag Week? I mean, this was the best thing as far as food goes. Is we'd come out of the hotel. Obviously, we'd eat continental breakfast and then get some stuff to go. We would have some snacks at the track, and then I was Class C or whatever. I was a Group C or D. They would go up and race after we changed our tires. We would have our Subway planned out. We would, on the way out, we get fuel, we get Subway, and then we'd eat the 6-inch there, and we'd take the other 6-inch to go. That's the best way.
And when you got hungry later, you just chow down, huh?
You got another 6-inch because you're always at some roadside, and then then you get the little plastic cup. It was the best thing ever, man. That was the best. And there's a Subway everywhere, So yeah, man, I'm just having flashbacks on that whole.
Well, that's what we're doing tonight is trips down memory lane. There's not a lot of tech questions.
Yeah. That whole nitrous thing, man. And what's funny is I've been out there looking at my eyeball and my nitrous system, looking at it going, I haven't played with this since, man, 2000. It's been 20 years. 20 years. Can you believe that? Like, I was actually doing the math when I played with nitrous.
Well, the neatest things, Southern California used to have some of the coolest street race stuff that I'd ever seen. Like, okay, brake booster that's completely hollowed out on the inside. It has a rod going through it to press on the manual brakes, but it looks like a power brake system. The big line coming out of there, nitrous line going right to the intake manifold, and then it's underneath the carburetor.
Yeah.
Right?
The little umbrella, that umbrella system, man, that made more money for people than you could ever imagine.
Probably.
I'm telling you,
It also kind of sucks when you don't get it set up right.
it blows.
But, yeah.
I know. I've ran over my crank so many times, just messing up, but that's what was not a big deal, is because you could get these engines when you're running a 13-second car. A stock engine with a 200 kit will run easily 13s or 12s,
Oh yeah.
and so you're fine, right? So that car out there that I drive, my race car, that's what I did that in. It was awesome. It was such good times because you'd blow it up. You didn't care, like whatever,
Well, there's a
79
question a little bit further down. Michael Schmidt says, Tech, how do periodic racers use ice or dry ice or CO2 to go faster at the drags? You're talking like Ryan Martin with the venting dry ice coming out the back of the Fireball car, right?
Yeah, I personally.
That's a water to air, or is that right? No, yeah, water to air intercooler, right?
Yeah, they're using probably like
Dry ice and
acetone.
water.
Yeah, or no, because dry ice and water would basically just literally it just vaporizes. It doesn't even get cold. You need say alcohol and and dry ice. That would actually hold the heat and transfer the heat. But then CO2, the dry ice basically gives off CO2, so it actually works in reverse. There was some people who did it on some YouTube channel where they put dry ice now. We're going to make this thing cold, but they're just pumping in CO2 into the engine and it actually went slower.
Well, no, it's on the other side of the intercooler. So
No, I get that. Yeah, no, I get that. But these guys actually put it on the inside. So,
No. Yeah, you're going to kill the performance.
Yeah, so the only time I ever used ice is just to cool my fuel, because that makes a big difference in a carbureted car. Because
I was using my EFI car, and we used to put the entire bag of ice on top of the plenum, right? The upper intake manifold. It'll cool the whole thing down, right? And then the old Ford stuff used to be all aluminum. It was so dang thick. If you got it cold enough, it would actually just sweat the whole damn night, and it would freaking run water all over underneath the car, and you used to get in trouble.
Yeah. It's thank you, Michael Schmidt. I appreciate it. Great stories and great discussion. Yeah, awesome. Thank you. We just come out here just tell stories about.
I looked up one of those Moroso cool cans for the fuel the other day, and there was one on eBay. That sucker was like $350.
Yeah, but they don't flow anything. I actually gave mine away because when I went to this Aeromotive pump, it's a -10 coming out of it. That's a -10 going forward.
Yeah, and it's like a 3/8 line going through that thing.
Exactly. It's a 3/8 NPT, but then the inside is.
Oh, the inside diameter is even smaller. Yeah.
I'm back. Okay, up. It's just a heat exchanger, So it's
right. I'm actually going to put one on my Super Stocker because I have one, and I don't see why it would be illegal. Because in 1967, that's what they ran.
Dude, it works. If you're doing it going forward.
Remember, you and I were the only ones at the track at Match Race Madness cooling our fuel down, right?
Dude,
Shane had a pump and ran it through a cooler. I just take the whole entire can and put it in the freaking cooler filled with ice.
I do it both. I have because I had a big tank on mine because I had foam in it, and I was using that for weight because I would run the Heritage Series, so sometimes the track wasn't always that good, so I would use fuel as extra weight behind the axle to help my traction, because I couldn't have any. You weren't allowed to put weight inside the car, like actual lead weight, so I would just use fuel. And it was I think it's a 15-gallon cell, so you can put some decent weight in there. So I have a thing that I can hook on there, and it goes down to a portable, cooler with a pump on it, and it's got a filter on it, and it's a metal line, so when you put it down to the bottom, and it ejects back out this way, so it just sits there and gravity feeds, and you hook it up to your battery, and it just cycles through, and you'll start to see the tank will start to bead water.
Yeah,
it'll start sweating. And then I go over there and I get my fuel that's been sitting in my big cooler of ice, put it in there, and then we get up to the line, and then I'll look through my air cleaner, and I can see the carburetor sweating because of the cold fuel in there. So,
but that's how I knew it was going to be a good run, because I'd put that really cold fuel, I'd dump it in the tank, and I got 2 electric pumps, and it's got EFI, but I could see the rails starting to sweat.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's like, ooh man, this is gonna be a good run, and I'll knock 1/10 to 2/10 off.
Yeah, mine's a 10th. Mine's a 10th on mine because it's carbureted, and I didn't have as much tunability as you, but mine's literally a 1/10 of a second with cooling the fuel in my car. And when you're running, a 620 or 630, that's a big deal. You know, tenth of a second's a big
Yeah,
deal.
well, when you're doing match race and it's a heads up, and the cars have been paired on the ET 620 or 630 car, and
Yeah.
they say that the whole idea is to keep them within a tenth. But I mean, if you're going up for the last and final third round, you've pulled all the plugs, you've indexed every single one of them, you've gapped them out the maximum,
Yep.
right? Timing, there's nothing left to put in it, and you throw the cold fuel at it, dude. And you'll have the front tires at 65 pounds of air and the rear ones at like 20, right?
Right, it's true. and it's funny because that's when they say within a tenth. Some of the guys I would pair up with were within 200ths of a
Right.
second.
Yeah.
And when I say 200, it's not like it was one run. This was like they ran 3 times.
Wow.
And I'm back. So they ran 3 times, and this was the average of their 3 times. So if they're within 200s, that's a really close race because a lot of these guys were bracket racers that left bracket racing because it got boring, and they went to match racing because it was more fun. You know?
Oh, that thing is a hell of a lot of fun.
Yeah.
You would be so excited before the first pass. You'll probably have to pee 9 times before you
Yeah.
go up there and make a pass. And it doesn't matter what you're driving. You can have the slowest turdmobile out there, and it is so much fun.
There's a picture.
I've
of
never
me
been in a bracket race where you can literally launch, look over at the other car, and it's not moving.
the whole time.
Yeah, and you're in there. You can see the other guy over there, like just trying to make it go faster, right? Or you can imagine you got your foot pressed down so hard it's actually denting the floorboard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, it was
Oh,
so
yeah.
much fun.
It was fun. I had such a good time with that, and I'm hoping to get that feeling back again. I was last Friday. I was on a John Wilburn's where they were talking about the 2010.
Oh man,
2, 1, and I'm back. Last Friday I was on with John Wilburn and Redbeard. I got to tell you, I'm going to be honest with you. I don't have a car for him. That dude's got like a 500 and something cubic inch car that's a full front end, you know, detachable chassis, and I'm looking at it going, man, mine's a street car with steel, you know, fiberglass.
I tell you what, I think I might do. I might just go all out on this. My car now fits the 28 10.5.
Uh-huh.
It's not going to run anything close to anybody there, right? You probably need a 550 to run that class and really manhandle people.
I might hit a 550. That's why exactly 550 is about a mid-pack car is what I'm thinking.
But I think I'm going to go in. I'm going to throw all in. I'm going to do every single stupid class I can.
Dude,
You
you
know?
know what, man? If you would have said that, I would have left my damn car alone, and I would have gone in there with you, and I would have just said,
I don't even know if I'm going to bring it. I need to get the dang thing in for sale, but I do need to get some. I need to get some airtime on it. We'll get it at the track. I'll pull the limiters off. I'm going to go for the best wheelie.
Oh, okay.
I'd like Rocky said, nobody's ever went the distance. I know I can't have the fastest car out there, but I sure as hell am going to have the most fun.
Here's
right?
John Wilburn saying Redbeard it's okay, so it's a 605 cubic inch Hemi. Okay. So has to make it there. That is correct. He does have some issues going into it. 100%. And it is, I mean, he's a racer. He's a hitter too. He knows how to hit a tree. Getting an instant green is an equal playing field if the person isn't a hitter. You know what I mean? So we're going to be close. So it's going to be one of those things that's kind of like, man,
All right, well, hey, so Dust Devil Garage asked a question here. Can you run copper line for nitrous, or is it too much pressure? Maybe nickel line. Dude, those are braided Teflon coated stainless steel lines,
And they still
then,
break.
right, and then you got the ones from the solenoid to the plate are generally made of steel, and they're generally made of stainless steel, and they're normally like most of it's like brake line style fittings,
Yeah.
right? Where you're running really high pressure because you got to remember that bottle. I want to say 900 to 1,200 pounds, and if you get over 1,200 is where the solenoids start to stick.
Yeah.
Right, but that's the kind of pressure you're running, and you got to remember it is a liquid going in there. So if it leaks, and that stuff I'm talking is cold. I got it on my hand before.
It
Just
burns.
it will
hurts.
it will literally make a hole in your skin immediately.
Yeah, it burns like it was on fire. It's so cold. Yes. Am I gone? Am I still
No,
here?
no, you're here.
Okay. Okay, good.
Yeah. Let's see. Somebody's talking about starlets with rotaries in them.
Oh yes, that's big time. That's like Puerto Rico style.
Yeah.
Those things, man. Those starlets are awesome, and I love that. Redbeard ran a 551 last year, and the Nelsons were very close. Fast cars are fickle. A 6.0 has a chance to win. I'd get.
Yeah, but well, 6.0.
Yeah, but do speed
You're talking.
now.
You're talking 5/10. That's a freaking big deal right there.
Oh yeah, well that's that exactly a 6, but it's also an instant. It's an instant green. If
Yeah,
you're
you
not
can do.
ready-
You can probably do 2/10 on the tree,
Mm-hmm.
and then I can give you a 1/10 on the track. But you're not going to get anything more than 3/10 out of it, probably.
No, 3/10 is about right. Yeah, but what he's saying by that is that a 550 car could blow. He could have to pedal it twice.
Oh yeah,
So-
there's all kinds of stuff that could
Yeah.
happen. You know.
Yeah, and so I'm just gonna go out there and do, and if it's on Saturday, so I'm probably gonna make some test squirts on Friday, and just see what it does.
Uh-oh, what it does. I could fill that one in.
I'm back, and I'm back. I'm gonna make some test squirts on Friday and just see what it is. Is what it is. So, all right. It's on the small ones, it's 3-second delay, and on the bad ones, it's 5 seconds.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I can hear it. I can hear it happening. I don't know
I
what
wonder
it
if
is.
it's your modem. You think it's your modem?
I don't know, man. I'm going to tell you, I'm going to have it looked at before this next one.
Well, I wonder if it's the laptop or the computer, PC.
I don't know. I couldn't tell you. Here, Colleen says, go back to Don's question for Max Wedge. Where was that?
John's question.
For Max Wedge. I don't know. I'm going back pretty far. Can you copy and paste it? Oh, right here. Is this it? No, that's. Few
Oh,
feet down.
okay. My car is doing a violent whiplash bang. A few feet out.
Feels like I'm hit behind or yanked with the chain. Leaves hardened and bangs a split second later. That almost sounds like it's a fuel.
Converter.
You think it's converter?
I don't. If you feel it,
Well, if it's a bang, like a whiplash bang, like
you know what? It makes more sense. It is fuel because it's leaving, and then maybe it's uncovering the
jet?
jets, and
Going lean?
and it's going lean, and it's then all of a sudden, once the fuel catches up or sloshes around enough, yeah.
Yeah. Usually, now, most carbs nowadays have this, but a big thing that I have ran into was jet extensions. I had to actually physically buy float bowls and floats so I could put jet extensions in the back ones. Because I didn't have them. And I was having this problem when I first started launching. And I was thinking, I'm just going to raise one. And I'm back. Okay. I would raise the float level and then but the problem with that is when I would let off the gas, the fuel would come forward and come out and then would splash and then would stall it from that. I would say it's a fuel thing. I would look at the carburetor. That's just my guess from very limited 4 sentences.
Huh. It would make sense as a fuel thing, though. But man, I've had converters go bad where they jerk. Right?
But that's on lockup.
No, not on lockup.
Oh, like an actual one, like when it was going bad, like stall. Oh, the sprag was dead then.
Oh, that could have been it.
Yeah, if the sprag goes out, that will happen. But you would notice it quite a bit because in a car that doesn't have a lockup, you're kind of on the stall most of the time, anyways. Dougster saying, one winter I had a faulty propane cylinder, spraying my hand with propane to reach down and grabbed a handful of snow to warm it up. It sounds like it was hot steel water quenched a tank. That's how cold it was. Yes, I know. Mine sizzled when it went into water because it was so cold. Here, last year I was only getting 3/4 throttle. This not this year. Fixed it. Awesome. Well, good. Because I almost beat you last year. So yes, good.
Twisted Mopar Garage is saying turn the carb sideways. It should go away if it's a fuel loss at takeoff.
Yeah.
Or just raise this float level.
Yeah. I would just look at the float level first. Then if the float level's correct, then just look at seeing if just look at your jets in the back, and then making sure that you're getting fuel to it, because sometimes it just could be that you have not enough fuel in the tank.
Yeah, Danny Boyd's saying that his Mustang's rear suspension will groan when I power shift in a second. My T-Bird does that actually. If you just go out and, like right now, if I go lean on the quarter panel, it'll groan like that.
Yeah.
But it also has that the sway bar for the rear suspension. If you've ever seen those torsional sway bars, they make all kinds of stupid noise. So
Yeah. All right, Andy, we'll take it easy, man. Got to go. 4:30 comes early. Have a good night, y'all. You take it easy, man. Awesome. Thanks for stopping by. It's always good to talk to you.
Oh, Dizzy said he ran is starting in second.
Yeah. Yeah, because he launched way out on me. But if he was only 3/4 throttle, because he was here and I was like here, and I was coming like this. If we would have had another like 50 foot, because I'd have got him. I think I had like 7 miles an hour on him. So that totally makes sense. Yeah, because he was up and gone. I rolled out first, but then I just watched him go. I was like, great, this is gonna suck. But regardless, I'll have something. I'll even bring the green car. Oh, and I got my A500 for the green car. So if that one gets done, let's just say something comes up with the Cookie Monster, I can always put the A500 in the green car, take the 411 gearing axle out of Plan Z, put it into the green car. So then I'll have a 411 rear end in the green car with a lockup converter. Man, it'll be badass. So,
Huh.
Yeah.
So Tom Brown saying that over here. I haul propane. It turns from a liquid to a gas at minus 40 degrees. I've seen it run on the ground like mercury in the winter in North Dakota where it's below minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit.
wow.
That'd be creepy. That really would be creepy. See, I can't handle cold like that.
No.
Not that cold.
No. We had it. We moved here, and the first year it was here, I took a picture of my temperature, and it said 0. And then there was one year, I think it was this last winter, or was it the winter before? We had -1, -1,
Oh.
and we actually had our very first pipe start to freeze in the kids' room. I was like, "Hey, everyone, go turn the water on." Gage goes up there, he goes, "I turned the water on, but nothing's coming out." I'm like, "Great." So then I found the one. Now, luckily in that area, it's one of those plastic pipes. I went in there, got a space heater, put it in there, left the line on, and then just randomly you just hear it go. It
Yeah,
turned
but see,
on.
the plastic pipes will actually absorb more of that. They'll do a little bit more expansion
Yes.
than your metal ones will.
And I think that's what happened. Is I think because where that line is at, it's fully exposed into the attic in one part. I think they had a blowout on it, and they replaced it with plastic line because of that.
Well, I tell you what, if you get those ducts up in your attic, it's essentially like a.
Crawl space.
Well, no, you have those ducts that where your heating goes through like a plastic tube.
Yeah.
Okay, go get some more of that stuff and then join it together and wrap around that pipe and throw some insulation over it, and you'll never see it again.
That's exactly what I did.
Oh, all right.
One. Okay. I took some of that foam and I cut it, put it on there, and then I packed that whole area with that pink stuff.
Uh-huh.
And I took a water temperature when it got down to freezing again. I took a water temperature and it was like barely.
Yeah, see,
30
Danny Boyd's
degrees.
saying here, copper pipes will split. And normally what you find is they split at the seam.
Yeah.
The first year that we were here in Tennessee, it got down to like -4. That was the first time it ever got cold like that for these folks around here. They were freaking out. And I didn't think nothing of it, but I mean, I went out to use my water spigots in the spring, and it was like, man, there's nothing coming out. And then it's like, where's all this water in the garage from? And it had split the hose, like the spigot, inside the spigot.
Oh wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ours froze outside. I didn't have a plastic cup, so now I have plastic cups for all that stuff. So
Ooh, Don's saying the one on cat saying we have that here. Builder ran bathroom pipes up an exterior wall.
yeah, that's what this one
Jeez.
is. This one it comes out. It goes through the center of the house, and then one area it's like they built the bathroom out, like extended it out slightly to make it bigger, and they ran the water line out. Like there's the roof because it's an upstairs bathroom, and then it runs next to the roof line, comes back in like this crawl space area. So it was like, I mean, I would never even thought of it come from Southern California, but now it's like, oh, now I notice that kind of stuff. Let's see what else we got going on. This is AC. Man, bringing some tech questions.
You know, when I was a kid in Illinois growing up, they used to have, like, the old houses had fuel oil, right? They would burn fuel oil to heat the house. And then there was some of them that were coal-fired that had been converted from fuel oil to coal fire.
Mm-hmm.
These houses were from, like, the 1900s. You could have that coal fire blazing so hot that the furnace would be, like, orange. And you could see the heat radiating out of the side of the houses. They're so uninsulated. And it was like a newspaper. Shredded newspaper was the big thing. They just take the newspaper and shove it up in the wall.
Wow. That's like kindling for fire. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, we've never really. I think what it was -1 degree here, and that was it. And we've had it was a big thing in the first time we were here, and it actually snowed. Like in California, we had snow. We go to the mountains, but never at our house was it on the ground sticking a foot deep. That was actually kind of something. That was something to see.
Well, we used to, like, under your house, if you had like a crawl space or a basement, most places had, some of the old houses had what do they call that? Oh, it's dirt, but it's I can't remember what they call it. It's essentially like where you keep vegetables and stuff, and it keeps it like at 60 degrees year round, right?
It's like a cellar, yeah.
Yeah, but it's a root cellar, right?
Oh, root cellar, yeah.
And so the ticket used to be when they got water installed in some of these houses. You got to remember, some of them were built without water, so they just ran the pipes essentially under the foundation and then up through, right? And they'd freeze almost like instantly every winter. But the ticket used to be is go down to that root cellar and you put a 60-watt bulb, like from just hanging from an outlet or whatever. And it was just essentially the socket with a bulb with like a prong to plug it in, right? Mm-hmm. And it would heat it enough that the pipes wouldn't freeze.
Oh.
And that was like the cheap ticket. But gosh, I mean, now, today's day and age, every tree hugger within a 10,000-mile radius would be freaking out. You had a 60-watt bulb plugged in 24/7.
Right. But electricity here is cheap, man. Like we have our AC running like right now. It's going basically 24 hours a day, and we barely pay like 200 something bucks. That's like amazing, you know.
Yep.
Yeah. Let's see what else we got going. Come on, let's do some. I would have to dig holes in the ground in February when the ground was froze solid. We did 3 feet. We used the asphalt torch to heat up the ground just so we could dig the damn hole.
Well, I don't doubt that.
Yeah.
I remember, like, I worked for my local town, my village, where I grew up at, and we'd always have pipes bust in the wintertime, and the ones out on the road are like steel, right? Mm-hmm. And they're like 4, 5, 6 feet down, and you'd have them pop, and then it'd just be water bubbling up, coming out of the sidewalks or whatever. So, of course, down in the wintertime, hey, we got to dig that out. And it's like, I was the only guy that, they didn't want to dig the hole any bigger than the rupture.
Yeah.
So I was like a small little kid. I was like freaking 16, 17 years old. Just get down there and dig that out. And I would go down there and dig that sucker out. And it every winter, it never failed. I always came home one day where I had soaking wet feet, right? And it was freezing outside. And but we'd have to dig down there, and he's not lying, man. I mean, it was like hitting rocks with a shovel. Like you're trying to dig into a rock, and you'd have to start the hole where the water's coming up, and then you can expand out.
Yeah, as it melts it a little bit.
Right.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah. moving here was definitely an adventure. Let's say.
I don't doubt that.
Well, you know what? We're getting down to our final 10 minutes. Let's talk about some car stuff.
Okay.
So you are going to. So this is official. Dallas is going to race his car now.
Well, I'm probably going to bring the T-Bird. I don't know what I'm going to do yet. I'll tell you what. If I don't bring it, I can't race it. So there's a couple things that's holding me up. Seat belts are extremely expired. They expired in December of 2020. I need to figure something out with that. And then all of my gear is expired. And so I will have to figure out something with that. Mm-hmm. I don't have a big pile of money to throw at anything right now. And the idea is just to get what I need to get the car down the track a couple times. And I'm going to have chassis cert the thing. So that way I can sell it with a chassis cert on it, right? So
yeah. I was that's actually what I was gonna ask you, is that I had my chassis certified. I think it was in 16 or 17. I think it was the last time it was certed. D can cert that there at the track.
Yeah, I just need to bring some tags for him, and he can cert them.
Perfect. Yeah, because nothing's changed, and I had it. It was AHRA at that time. It was before I went AHRA, so it was actually NHRA. Sorry, NHRA certed. It was certed down to 850 is where it's inserted to right now.
Yeah, it'll be fine.
Mm-hmm. And then, so you're going to go there, and are you going to hopefully going to get a match race, or what are you going to do?
I don't know what I'm going to do yet. Right now,
intriguing.
I'll tell you what I'm planning on doing. Okay,
let's hear it.
You might not know this, but I'm actually pretty dang good at bracket racing. I was thinking about see if I could take just Mopar Joe and show him some 88 Thunderbird taillights. So,
oh, you heard it right here. Do you hear that?
Take out the champ.
Then you get the Professor P money then.
I don't know. I'm not shooting for any money. I'm just trying to go there and have fun. It took me 8 years to build the car. We raced it for 2, and then I parked it to run the AHRA. And then now, since my whole life is in turmoil, I'm going to end up selling the thing. And it was not it was a labor of love to build it. It was not very lovely to own it because it just sat the whole time.
Yeah. At least get some, that's one thing too, is mine. I was driving it so much, when it was a street car, then, if you guys want to see something interesting, if you Google Shane Polito and New York Times, there's a really good article out there about me. I was actually not street racing that day, but I was popped for street racing, and I had to do community service, and that's when I got involved in that whole Race the Cop, the Code 4 racing, where they did take it off the streets, put it to the track, and I built a lot of the cop car race cars for them at the San Diego Police Department. But after that point, I didn't street race much anymore. That was like 2006 or something, 7. I basically just parked the car. Then I did some racing through like 2010 to 2016, and then the cars basically sat. And I just, the twins came, I had the block crack, then life happened, and then we moved here. And then moving here, whenever you move, it takes 2 to 3 years. So before you can actually start to really do something. So I'm going to start to enjoy the car. That's my whole point with it.
Well, man, this one was like, I put it together. My daughter was 2, I think, when I started. The whole goal was the car had to run for 18 years with nothing but valve springs and, bearings. And that's it. That's all I was going to spend money on. And so I kept the RPM down, and I just wanted to be able to low maintenance, low cost of operation, and just enjoy it. And then when I went to the first race that I built the car for, which was, I don't know if you're familiar with another sanctioning body called the NHRA, but they have a class called Super Gas. It's a freaking bunch of crying sissies these days. But it's a 990 index class. And it had been 30 years since anybody ran the class without any electronics and wizardry. And I showed up, and these guys were freaking out, man. They didn't know how to deal with it.
Protested you constantly. They just cried
Yeah,
the whole time. Yeah.
And they to the point where they wouldn't even let me in the gate for the events anymore. And I'm like, you know what? F you guys, right?
Yeah.
And that's what started the whole AHRA resurrection thing for me. Was that right there? I was so mad. These guys were crying, and I was doing it the hard way, and they wouldn't even take their crap off and run me. They ran me with all that electronic wizardry on me, and they had all the advantage in the world, but then they cried about me because they didn't know how to deal with me. And I liked it because it shook the whole thing up.
Yeah.
Right, and then
You were
remember-
out and gone, wheels in the air, and they're like,
dude,
what do
that
I
was
do?
the thing that I liked the most was like there was people leaving the stands in droves. They were just like, oh, these cars suck, right? And I turned that sucker loose, and it was like a 4-foot wheel stand, man, and there was freaking kids on the fence like, yeah, you know what? And I was the only car that did that. The rest of them and then run 185 miles an hour out the back door at 990. But man, I was letting her eat right off the line. But you know that whole day was just a mess. I spent 4 hours in tech, right? I mean, they went through every SFI tag I had on the whole car. And then when I went up to, you know how you get staging there. Have you been to Fontana? Where the staging kind of curves around and it widens out, right? Mm-hmm. And I pulled it up. They had us in lane 1 or 2. So it was the real tight corner, right?
Right up against the fence right there. Yeah.
And I pulled in, and the lady's like running up there like, no, shut it off. And I'm like, oh, what's wrong? Am I on fire? Is there something going on? Oh, you're in the wrong lane. And I said, why am I in the wrong lane? Well, I mean, look at your car. I mean, this is super gas, right? And, I mean, your car can't be any more than a street car, right? And I'm like, is that car right up in front of me? You know, that $100,000 Corvette bodied Roadster, is that one plan on running 990? Because that's what the fuck I plan on running, right?
So, can you make heads or tails? Shane, Plan Z, do?
Planzido. Shane Planzido. That's your name. Planzido.
All right, I'm back. Good. Planzido. Okay, yeah. Instead of Polito, Planzido. Okay, I just didn't catch that one. That one went. Didn't catch that. So that's a good one. Good. I like that. Let's see.
Yeah, I just hated that the guys cried and I couldn't run the car in the class I intended to build it for. So I ended up just, since there was no place left to race, I'd run the match races with Shane, and then we moved here and I was running the AHRA, and it just got to be like too much life.
Yeah.
And the car sat all the time.
Yeah. And now we're at a point now where the kids are at a point where they can kind of take care of themselves. You know, they're 8, and then Gage is she's 13, so she'll be 14 coming up here in January. I'm sorry, December. So it's getting to where it's a little easier.
Right.
Hopefully, you know, so I can have a little bit more time. When we go to the track, I'm not so worried, like, where are the kids at? Who's going to run them over? Who's going to steal them? You know, now it's kind of like they can pretty much fight them off, you know, now. So.
Right. Well, when you and I were out there match racing, my daughter was like 5, maybe 4 or 5.
Mine was 2, yeah.
Yeah, dude, this has gone by too fast.
I know, it is. And mine starts high school next year. High school. What the hell? Where'd that go?
Michael Schmidt is saying, AHR, any thoughts on next year? I'll let everybody know. No. I don't know what I'm going to do next year. I have no idea. My life is in complete upside down turmoil at the moment. And right now I'm looking at probably just getting a regular job so I can get back on my feet and get things kind of figured out.
Yeah.
I don't know what's going to happen. Everything is too questionable right now with divorce and everything that's happening in my house. So.
Okay, so here's a question for you. Weight reduction from disc brakes or the ability to back off drum brakes, what is worth the speed? Okay, if it's a straight race car and a drag car and you have plenty of room to shut down, I prefer drum brakes because they're self-energizing and you don't need nearly as big of components. And a 9-inch drum is usually going to be lighter setup than most disc brake systems. Factory disc brakes. You can get obviously Wilwoods and so on and so forth, but bang for your buck, a drum brake, you can hold them on the line really easily. When
They
I
have
had
more
the,
surface area than
Yeah.
than a disc brake.
Yeah, so when they're stopped, when they're at the line, and I had the 9-inch drums on my Dart, it was actually easier to cut a light. And when I went to the disc, I had to really hammer on them.
Well, my T-Bird came factory with 9-inch rear drums, and I was looking at. I put Wilwoods on the front to get rid of the heavy
Yep.
front disc brake setup, and in the back, I ran out of money for disc brakes, and I was waiting for months and months and saving my money, and then I started doing some homework, and I realized, man, a 10.5-inch drum, 3 inches wide from a Ford Aerostar with a tow package, has more braking capability than the best aftermarket rear disc brake.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
I'm like, how much is that set up? And I looked, and a full rebuild was $62 out the door, right? And
Yeah,
that's
that's
for
the way to
both
do it.
wheels, dude.
And I've been running drum brakes for a very long time on my cars, and the only reason I put the Wilwoods in the front of my race car, it was just for stopping.
The
Yeah,
weight.
weight and stopping, unsprung weight. In the rear, I'm a drum brake guy. And on Plan Z, I'm going to keep drum brakes because I like them.
On my super stock car, it's got drums all the way around, and I'm using aluminum drums.
Well, guys, there's 2 hours, man. You got anything you want to plug real quick besides?
No Name National's coming up in what, 35 days?
35 days, and he said 4 hours. So I think it's now 2 hours from his on the west coast. He's on the east coast, and we've got 3 hours from us. So yeah, it's coming up quick, and you're going to see a lot of people thrashing. But catch John Wilburn tonight on his channel, John Wilburn.
Not tonight,
He goes,
Friday.
Friday night. On Friday night, and he goes on at was it
7 Central.
7
And it's going to be me and Deke talking
Oh.
about tech
Oh,
for
so
No Name
definitely.
Nationals.
You got to go on there for that. So absolutely. So that way you'll know what you're going to need to pass to go down the track. So definitely go and check it out. Anything else for you?
That's it. I'm out.
All right, guys. You guys.
Spent.
Yeah, right. I'm tired too. Well, you guys have a good week, and thanks for stopping by. Thanks for everybody super chatted. If we didn't get to a question, once again, slantdailygarage@yahoo.com, slantdailygarage@yahoo.com, and
Hey, it's 7 days till the next show, so it's no surprise. Think of a tech question.
yeah.
That way we don't have to talk about carne asada burritos and 40 ounces and watching street races from the
or
90s.
wearing black hoodies and and Dickies. You know what I mean, with my checkered Vans. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
All right, you guys take it easy. All right,
See you
have a
later.
good week. All righty, and we are 3